Can't believe I'm doing another one of these. Editing Bruce here to give another announcement. This is like the 20th video in a row to have a fucking Editing Bruce segment inside of the footage. So the way we recorded this was on a YouTube Live, which actually makes it kind of sad because we can't really see each other's emotions unless we're literally talking. So you'll notice throughout the video that you'll see still faces that are just kind of like that. And, well, it's a little strange, but it's no big deal. I mean, the video's still the same. You can hear most of the audio still the same. And once again, we're still hoping to get an improved service so we can start recording more collabs more frequently on this channel, bring them back. Hopefully some recording software comes out. We're not sure. As of now, this is the only way we could do it. And maybe somebody says something and you might be like, why is that guy just having a straight face? Or why is he stuck on this smiley face and they're talking about nothing funny? Well, that's why. Sorry about this announcement. Enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Goose Block. I'm your boy Bruce, and I'm here with the one and only the Horrorlander to talk about Tales from the Crypt Season 6 and 7. These are two of the worst seasons in anthology horror, supposedly. I haven't checked out too much anthology horror yet, but from what I have, I can definitely agree with that statement. And since we have a special guest on tonight, I'd like to throw it over to him and say, how's it going? How's your night going? How's things been going, dude? It's been a while.
Yo, people and patrons of the night. It's your boy, the Horrorlander. I am no shy person to this channel. Collab many times. Bruce is one of my favorite people. Love collabing with them, so that's why I'm on here. Because the content for tonight is straight up doo-doo Garbaggio Hall of Fame. So, not excited to talk about it, but excited to roast it with my boy. I've been doing good, man. For all those of you out there who are wondering, just for my channel, I've been busy with work and stuff. So a little occupied, but I'm still enjoying horror media, and unfortunately, I had to catch up on our topic for tonight. So that's been occupying my time, but hey, man, the big, grand act right now is about to happen. So looking forward to it.
It's been a while since we've had a collab on this channel because of Skype shutting down, but we kind of figured out this kind of scuffed way of doing things that's just going to have to work for now, am I right? We're in the trenches, we're locked in. I'm sorry, I'm never saying that again. Okay, Season 6 and 7 of Tales from the Crypt. So, I think the best way to just get into this is talking about what was a video I just uploaded, actually today, as of the day we're recording this, which is Tuesday. Season 5, as we all know by now, was kind of on the weaker side of things, right? Like, it has good episodes, we've talked about that, but at this point in time, it seems that Tales from the Crypt as a franchise wanted to go more in the, like, film industry, and I mean film industry as in, like, actual movies, stuff you'd see in the theaters, right? So, with that being said, they decided to basically cut costs on the series more and more as it went on. And anybody who has 2 brain cells can tell you that that's not a good thing. And I think that, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but I'm sure you do. Tales from the Crypt Season 6 is where that really starts to show. We're just going to get straight into Season 6. This is a very, very rough season. In my notes that I wrote down after watching it, I said that this is more all over the place than any other season so far. But it also has, in my opinion, we'll get into BD in a second, but this has much worse episodes in general. I think that with it being so scattershot just all over the map, it also has some of the weakest in the entire franchise, right? I'd say this season has 3 or 4 of the all-time worst, which that's really bad. And we still get to see this guy, but you can tell that there's just less energy going on, even with the opening segments. And hey, I'm just gonna say, from the very start of this season, which was a really rough episode, to the very end, I hate to say it, but there's not much good to be offered on the table. So in my opinion, as a whole, season 6 is just extremely rough. There can be great stuff. We'll get into that later. There can be really, really bad stuff. And I think that overall, that the bad outshines the good just because of how much there is. It's overwhelming. That's not to say that there isn't a lot of just kind of meh, kind of in the middle of the road type of episodes as well. But that's so common with Tales from the Crypt that I don't find them that interesting to talk about. So we can just start this discussion off before we talk about what's our favorite episodes, least favorite episodes. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it over to BD, the Horrorlander. What is your overall thoughts on this season before we get into episodes?
Horror shows, you guys will figure it out as you like binge through them, is that the first and second seasons usually start off very strong, and then each progressive season, the budget will keep getting cut down to the point where that last season stretch is always going to be very rough and very horrible. We'll get into it in a little bit, but actually the very last season of the show was so rough, they had to give it over to a different country. So yeah, that explains Tales from the Crypt. Season 6, in terms of still embodying the vibe of the show, it is hands down the worst season. It has some of the most consistently bad episodes that keep appearing. Not to mention some of those episodes are probably some of the worst episodes in the entire show. Not saying that they're definitively the worst, but consistently you keep getting a lot of bad stuff. And the somewhat decent episodes in season 6 are really nothing to shake a stick at. You can pick out some good things, but they're not going to overall stick in your memory compared to like season 4 and 5, which did kind of show that the show was going down, but there was still a lot of good in those seasons. And actually some of the great episodes of season 5, for example, are very good. But in this case, in this season, they're just eatable. They're manageable. Everything else is just, meat and peas baby food. Just absolutely terrible stuff that you cannot digest. So those are my overall thoughts about season 6, but I'm sure we'll dive into it more as we go through these episodes.
Yeah, I completely agree that this is just extremely disappointing as a season, as if season 5 already wasn't disappointing enough. I think it's, an appropriate time to just go straight into episodes, right? We already talked about this, but as far as episodes go, there's nothing that special going on, right? And this is, so as of seasons 1 through 6, so far this has the worst favorite episode. So if that says anything, just shows that they're going down in quality. My favorite episode of season 6, and this is just one that I want to throw out there, is The Pit. I tried to compare this to another horror themed episode of this franchise. I think that it would fall flat on its face, my bad. But as its own thing that's a bit more comedic, it has some very memorable scenes too. I think that The Pit is actually quite underrated, but I still don't think, once again, like BD said, that it's just anything that crazy. Like, if somebody threw this on a table with 10 other really good Tales from the Crypt episodes, or just even good Tales from the Crypt episodes from seasons 1 through 4, I probably wouldn't even glance at this one very often, because, really, it's not that interesting. So, in previous Tales from the Crypt reviews on this channel, I would talk about the most interesting episodes. Here, unless it's just straight up awful, there isn't much to be talked about. So, it's kind of hard, right? Hey, I'll say it, Doctor of Horror, it's, it's a decent one. I like that one too. I think that Ben Stein being the star of the cast is fucking ridiculous. But, it has some good characters, I guess. It's definitely memorable, which is something I can't say about fucking half the episodes in this season. I'm not sure if there's anything else. That's really bad, man. Two episodes, and they're both below a 7. So, that's my overall best of season 6. Do you have anything?
Lightly saying the word favorite. I would say that Stared in Horror was my personal, I guess, top one. I think I'd give it like a 6 or 6.5 out of 10. Stared in Horror was basically about this guy who ends up getting into this house in the swamp. He's basically hiding from some policemen that are chasing him, some sheriffs, who, by the way, and one of the reasons why I like this episode more is because the sheriff that's hunting him down is Arlie Ernie, who is from Full Metal Jacket and, many other famous movies. If you guys know, let me see your war face, that guy. That's him. So him being through the peephole of the door, yelling in and doing his whole shtick was funny. And this story was basically about this lady who's able to basically adjust her age, but it's in a specific way. She basically got cursed, where her younger self is trapped at the top level of her house, and anytime she goes down the stairs, or I think it's the opposite, where she goes down the stairs, she gets older, goes up the stairs, she goes younger. And that barrier and curse also applies to anybody who enters the house. So, pretty fun mechanic. I think that idea is pretty cool. Again, this one is nothing too crazy, but I think it's a decent episode. Outside of that, like you said, The Pit, it's one that if you don't take seriously, it's pretty fun. I kind of like the over the top, corny fighting style of it. And yeah, I think that's really it. Outside of that, everything else sort of just goes down the drain.
Worst episodes, right? I think for me, immediately I'm just gonna have to go with The Assassin. This episode is really fucking bad, just all over the board. Between acting, weird character moments, and straight up just disgusting, perverted shit. Like, I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that, but I really hope not. This is definitely one that I don't ever want to watch again, as if I want to watch any of these episodes again from season 6, but that's a big one. Whirlpool, Jesus Christ. I think this one's mostly just as bad as it is because of the main character. I mean, the worst thing you can do to your episode, in this show at least, is make your character insufferable. And this is top 3 worst in the entire show. So having her the main character, I'm like, Jesus, dude. Like, pick anybody else. And the acting's not good, but I don't know what script she had to work with. It clearly wasn't a fucking good one. 2 more that I'd like to mention. Operation Friendship, which, just what the fuck is this episode? I mean, there there's like a couple fun moments, I guess. I mean, that's all I can say about it. It's bad. I think that what feels like a cool idea basically just gets ruined by how bad this schizophrenic demon is. I mean, it's bad. Really, really bad. So, yeah, definitely not a good one. And the last main episode I want to talk about, In the Groove. This shit just feels pointless to me. It's a lot of sex happening in the first half. I mean, even in the second half, there's a decent bit of it, and it's just straight up nothing happening but sex. The story is very forgettable. I mean, I can't even remember what it's about, for fuck's sake. And just a quick honorable mention. I'm gonna read this entire title out because I'm sure you'll have something to say about it. But 99 and 44, 100% pure horror. I'm not even gonna say anything about it. If you know, you know. And BD, what's your worst episodes of this season?
The Assassin is basically about this woman whose husband basically leaves for work. And these people end up breaking into her house. You think that they're robbers, but then they reveal that apparently her husband is an undercover CIA assassin or something. And he's basically had plastic surgery and changed his identity. And they want to get him, but she doesn't understand what they're talking about. And then it kind of in a way ends up being like some Home Alone, like she ends up fighting off the robbers in very stupid ways. First of all, Corey Feldman is in this episode. Corey Feldman plays one of the goons. He's in a bunch of stuff, I think Lost Boys and a bunch of other movies. Actually, funny enough, he appeared in Bordello of Blood. which is one of the Tales from the Crypt movies, in the beginning. But, even though he is a famous actor, his performance is sort of average. He just plays a typical sort of goon. The beginning fight between him and the woman is she basically bends over and lets him fuck her anal, and then he ends up getting his tie caught in a treadmill and dies. Another guy ends up dying on the fucking toilet and shits himself, and then there's a reveal. There's a reveal about who the assassin really is, and it is one of the most offensive and goddamn stupid things I have ever seen. And for some reason, Tales from the Crypt loves this whole, I'll just say it, transvestite just exploitation. And they do it so much, and it's literally done in 2 of the worst episodes ever. So if you guys don't know what I mean by that, I think you can put 2 and 2 together, but you just watch that episode. Whirlpool is horrible, main reason being because it's literally Fake Out City. And first of all, this episode has a similar setup to not one of my favorites, well, one of my top episodes, which is Corman's Calamity. That episode is a meta comic story, and here it's a woman writing comics for Tales from the Crypt. Again, a meta comic thing. But the episode is non-stop fake outs. It's Groundhog's Day. It's literally non-stop dream sequences. What the fuck is going on? For any of you kids horror fans out there, if you've read Dr. Maniac versus Robbie Schwartz, this is like the beginning part of it on steroids, the entire 20 minutes. It's horrible. There's absolutely no investment you could have in this episode. And yeah, it's just a complete waste of time. Operation Friendship is just cringe, man. It's a dude who gets in a relationship with the girl next door in his apartment building, and he's a fucking schizophrenic, apparently just keeps making up people in his life, and his best friend, who's super annoying and over the top and hits a bunch of stereotypes, that's the dude he dreams up as his BFF. So that one is just weird. It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I agree with you that In the Groove is the cringiest episode in Tales from the Crypt, because it's literally about a guy who has their mother die. Their mother was, I guess, like a radio mogul. She owned a bunch of stations and channels. And his older sister, or whatever, ends up getting inherited a lot of the stations. He ends up inheriting one station that he has to share with his sister, so he doesn't even have full ownership. And his idea of a radio channel is just him reading out sexual fantasy fanfics and reenacting them the entire episode. And he ends up getting this female partner who ends up being his assistant. And apparently, their role play is so good that he enters a parallel realm of imagination, and he ends up falling in love. So that is literally one of the cringiest things ever. There's explicit, just sexual roleplay fantasy stuff in there. And by the end, it made no sense. It made no sense as to a decision a character made. And it felt like a waste of time. So yeah. And the long ass title you said, I call it 99 Problems and the title is one. That's literally the episode. First of all, it's a shit episode. And there's a scene involving soap bars, which is no. And whoever made that title, you need to get ran over by a steamroller. If you have not already, I wish that upon you. Don't ever make a fucking title like that in your life again. And yeah, it's pretty much, I agree with a lot of the stuff you said. I do have to give one brief honorable mention, not to one that I consider necessarily the worst, but it just shows you how messy this show is. Comes the Dawn is one of the messiest episodes in this season, in the fact that it had the best practical effects. It had really cool looking monsters, threats in terms of practical effects, but the episode is all over the place. It's about these hunters who go to Alaska and stumble upon a lesbian couple who they end up killing one of the people. And the other lesbian woman apparently was in the military, and just so happens these two hunters ended up being like her sergeants or her teammates, coincidentally, and they don't fucking act anything like you would expect military people to do. And I've read military stories and military horror stories. Every time these guys come on camera, they are so parody that you think that they were lying about being in the military. But no, they're not lying. They claim that they were top-level sergeants. And there's like poaching that's brought up in the episode that goes nowhere. This lady apparently is infected by something which goes nowhere. People said it was supposed to be like representing AIDS. That's what a popular fan base theory is. I don't give a shit what type of cope mechanism the fan base was drawing up with that, but Yeah, very messy episode. And you read the title, it says, right here, I'll read it out to you. This is the blurb. An ex-army colonel and his sergeant set out to trap a grizzly bear and end up being caught by a Desert Storm vet. That has nothing to, that had barely any fucking thing to do with the episode. It's that fucking random. So yeah, those are
God.
my overall thoughts about, in terms of season, the notable episodes. And not all notable in a good way, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Comes the Dawn, but that's a fucking horrible episode. Isn't that like the last one of season 6 too, or?
Nah, so it's the third to last. After that is 99 Problems in the Titles one, and the last one is You Murderer, which is that first person POV one.
Oh, I see. Okay, so okay, I thought that was the last episode because I was about to say that's a really bad way to go off. Yeah, no, good picks, good picks. It's funny how you can see just how much we are agreeing with each other on what's so bad, though. Like, yeah, it just shows, man. It just shows. I guess I'll get into season 7, right? I think this episode as a whole is consistently more awful than season 6, which is apparently the opposite of what most people have to say. I think that this is shot and directed very ugly too. Just the way everything's so grimy in most of these episodes. I'm just not a fan of that. I've never been a fan of that. Like that's a big problem I have with a lot of 2000s horror media is that it tries too hard at getting this kind of yucky feel out of you by having a camera filter on of some sort or like just putting you in a really nasty looking building, you know.
In terms of cinematography, this season is like Creepshow 3, where like
really,
that the
yeah.
whole style just changes to. You can tell it's lower quality.
No, for sure. It's just when you have to rely on that, you can tell it's they have less to work with, which I kind of respect. But hey, whatever. And yeah, I do agree. Creepshow 3, that's actually a good comparison, cinematography wise. Speaking of feels cheap, that's another thing I wrote down. It just feels so cheap. I mean, even compared to season 6, this just feels like a new low, right? And I'm gonna get into the last episode in a little bit after we talk about the live action episodes, because I have a lot to say on that episode.
Well, I was gonna say before we get into that, just also as a note, I guess for some people who don't know about it, season 7 was basically given over to the UK, the United Kingdom. All of Crypt was done in the US and had the same sort of people involved with it. But eventually, when the budget kept getting basically lower and lower, which you can tell by season 6, they basically gave it over to brand new people. So in a way, that's why I bring up Creepshow 3, because the Creepshow movies were given over to, I believe, HBO or somebody, whoever was in charge for Tales from the Crypt, and they completely massacred Creepshow, the franchise, the movie franchise, because they wanted to make room for Tales from the Crypt, which was going to be the brand new thing, funny enough. And guess what happened? Karma happened, bitches. Yeah, y'all messed up Creepshow, so then you got the same treatment. UK ended up getting season 7, and that's why all the actors are, British. That's why all the styles completely different. The humor is pretty much different, although they try to imitate some things. So that's sort of background info.
It's actually that's a good discussion point that I think it's very tonally different, just in almost every way. Like it's like the way people speak, even though of course there's British slang compared to American slang. I'm not even talking about that. I'm saying just the way humor comes off or scary parts come off is very European, and it also definitely doesn't rely as much on schlock, which is something I noticed heavily in this season. I was like, this is a lot more dialogue heavy. I think that the characters, funny enough, a lot of them kind of rely on a lot of the 90s UK scenes, specifically in music, which was the weirdest thing. I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't love it. I'm not a fan of any of that shit, but, it's whatever. I mean, even though it was in the UK, they still had the same voice actor, actually, for this guy, Crypt Keeper. So I guess there's that. Maybe that was filmed in the US and the rest was filmed in the UK. Or maybe they sent over a soundbite of the voice actor saying his lines, and then they just move the puppet around. It's kind of unclear. There's not much info about it.
What I suspect is that Crypt Keeper's segments were probably still in the U.S. It's the same voice actor. They just have the skits done separately and edited. And the last episode is all American voice actors. So I think that last episode probably was an early concept, and that's why it got shoved at the end. So everything else is British stuff.
And once again, we're gonna have to talk a lot about that last episode. At least I'm gonna. But let's just get into the regular episodes because that's so much different than anything else in the season. So, season 7, right? Best episode. Well, I'm gonna speak for Horrorlander on this one. I'm sorry, man. We both actually do not have one. And for me, I don't know what his reason is. He can definitely explain that. For me, that's because my highest rating, I think, is a 5.5 or a 6. I don't even remember. I think it's actually a 5, which is not good. So I can't say it's my favorite. It's the least bad. So I guess if that's the new terminology we're using, I guess there's your answer, and I'm going to say Report from the Grave. I think this episode is okay at trying some things. I also like the vibe it has compared to a lot of the other episodes. It's a bit more Halloween-y, spooky shit that a lot of the other seasons had. Besides that, there's just nothing going on that's very special here. I didn't like almost any of it. You have anything to say? Best episode.
Yeah, I mean, season 7, the reason why we say that is because all the episodes are pretty much dog shit now. Some of them are more tolerable, so I guess if you guys want to say what's the most tolerable episode, my personal pick is A Slight Case of Murder. This episode is basically about a, I guess, librarian or publisher, I think it's a publisher lady, who has this woman who keeps coming to her, asking her if she can publish or give her advice on making a mystery thriller novel that might be a bestseller over where they live. And the lady keeps refusing, and eventually she pitches an idea. And let's just say that that idea gets taken by the lady who wants to write a book, except she's very passionate about making a mystery thriller novel, and she takes it to the extreme in a very elaborate plan that plays out. The reason why this is my favorite is because, or I say most tolerable, is because I think the concept is good. I've seen concepts like this before in other media. Actually, there's actually a real life horror story involving a guy who was making a horror movie, and he actually performed the acts of the horror movie, beating to death and setting up people. So this is what that reminded me of. And yeah, overall it's decent. I think that it played out fine. Is it anything that I would like vouch for? No, but in terms of what's most tolerable this season, I get it. And Report from the Grave is actually my second, I guess, most tolerable. Because like you mentioned, it has a horror vibe. It's the most, I think, horror-based episode outside of Horror in the Night, but that one is so messy that forget it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Report from the Grave had a decent concept. I think just the execution of it I wish was a little better, but yeah, I'd say those two are kind of at the top of the list.
I feel like now you're saying that a good way to compare season 7 is just saying that it feels like a lot of shitty thrillers at the time. And I know that's what was popular, right? Movies like Seven and, I know Misery's a big one that people love, Silence of the Lambs. Even though that was a bit beforehand, like, it still was of this era. A lot of people loved that stuff. I don't know if it works here because it's just so badly executed. Like these next two, Fatal Caper, Fatal Capper. I think it's Caper.
Caper, yeah. Horrible.
It's fucking.
This episode, I'll take this one. This episode is basically about these group of sons. One of them is missing. They ran away from home. The other two, the one guy is a super pseudo fake spiritual type of guy who basically uses it to have sex with a bunch of women. He disguises, like, he does like Hindu meditation techniques to get head and get blowjobs and shit, and he uses the Kama Sutra, talks about tantrics. Listen, man, as a Hindu, the dude is cap. It's all cap. It's just a fraud. He just wants to have sex with a bunch of women. And the other guy is a little on the heavier side, and he's basically just a crook. He just keeps stealing money from people, taking money, cheating people out of money. So what ends up happening is that the father is suspected that he's going to pass away. He's old now. He doesn't think he have much more to live for, and he wants to decide how he's going to break up this wealth, this real estate, this wealth that's going to be inherited to the sons. So they end up fighting each other over it, and eventually there's a twist at the end of the episode, which is a little similar to The Assassin, except here I would say it's even a little more insulting. This episode is the fucking first episode of season 7. This is the worst pilot episode in anthology history. Okay? I'm talking even extended to kids horror and adult horror together. Anything that's anthology, this is the worst pilot episode to anything anthology. Unless you want to count movies, then Creepshow 3, sure, go ahead. But this episode is horrible. It has no likable characters. The humor is, again, on that UK side, which most of the time I notice, and this is no offense to the UK, I'm just saying what it is. A lot of their humor, at least back in these episodes, is very childish, almost in a way, almost like they almost feel like they're parodying all of these episodes. And the thing about Tales from the Crypt, when it was taking place in America, it's schlocky. It's obviously adapting, EC Comics, and they take themselves seriously. Yes, are the concepts ridiculous? Is there shock value? Is it all these things? Yeah, but they take it seriously. Every time you see season 7 episodes, the actors almost look like they're close to breaking out laughing. Like they got that very goofy, very posh, very tamed humor, but at the same time, they'll be in the most eloquently possible way talking about getting their dick sucked and busting in a girl's eye. It doesn't work that way. Like that just does not work. Or even a murder scene is almost played up to be comedic sometimes. So the problem with Fatal Caper is just it's the worst. It's a story that doesn't make much sense. The characters are horrible. The twist at the end is shock value done in the worst way. It is like the thing about The Assassin, although that episode's horrible, at least they took some build-up. Did I say the build-up was good? No. They at least had some sort of setup to kind of reveal that awful twist. Here, the awful twist is just shoved in your face at the end. Literally at the end. It's like, oh, you thought the episode was over? Nope. We got some extra bullshit to throw in.
It's last minute, dude. It's literally unexpected.
Not only is it last minute in terms of the pacing of the episode, it's last minute even in the minds of the characters. The characters completely forgot or didn't even remember this single plot line, and it came at the end. And when it comes at the end, it's like, literally I nearly vomited because it was that cringe. It was literally just out of the cringe of that ending, I was about to gag, bro. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's how you end this episode? So yeah, this one gets a 1 out of 10. It's horrible. And again, it's the opening episode of season 7. So imagine how many people just stopped watching season 7 after they saw this thing. They're like, I'm not going further.
Yeah. I don't even know. Was this show, like, at this point even played much in the US? Probably not.
No, it was.
No way.
It was dying off in popularity. And even if you're from the UK, I don't think anybody would have thought that this was good, bro. Nobody.
No way. Yeah, like... And I mean, hey, like, I'll be real, Fatal Caper's horrible. The Kidnapper's worse. That's my worst episode of this entire show. Like, I'm just gonna quickly say this. I did not think there could be a worse episode than my favorite season 2's Four-Sided Triangle. That is such a bad episode.
Season 6 and 7, Four-Sided Triangle somehow looks a little better. You almost look at it and you're like, you know what? Maybe I should be harsh on you, but not as harsh as some of this other stuff.
Part of me, like, in my head was almost like, well, at least it's kind of trying it, like, being really fucking creepy and, like, weird incest shit.
You know what Four-Sided Triangle is? Bad, but you can at least, like, laugh and make fun of it with your homies for how bad it is. Who in their right mind would be like, yo, my boys, let's it's a Saturday night, let's go ahead and play that Fatal Caper, that Kidnapper. Boy, hell nah, I'm kicking you out of my house, bro, and you're not getting a ride back home. You gotta walk your ass 5 miles, bro.
The Kidnapper. It basically, as soon as the woman is on his doorstep, That's where everything falls apart. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 2 minutes into the fucking episode. That is how long you have to comprehend what is okay. Not even good, okay in the episode. This episode has so many chances, so many, at turning the story around and picking it up in a different direction that could have been slightly interesting. I'm not joking. This is a cool concept. It really is, right? Sure, it's ridiculous. No shit. Half of Tales from the Crypt is, more than half. But like, my god, they just ignored every opportunity they had. I mean, I think one of the big missed opportunities, like just off the get-go, is with the ending, right? And I know we haven't been doing spoilers, man. Just quick spoiler, skip ahead 30 seconds, right? The ending, where you kind of have like 3 twists back to back, which this is a thing that I've had about Tales from the Crypt season 5 through 7. Big issue, too many twists. But, you know, this is 3 bad twists back to back that could have been good. You know, with him stealing the baby, which is like, whoa, okay, right? So then the baby getting taken away from him, and then finding out that it's actually his baby. Oh god, man. I mean, just why? And it's so abruptly ended that it makes you just feel like, why did I watch that? The characters are awful. The whole love plot just needed to end. I mean, from the get-go it needed to end. It was weird and just creepy. I gotta be honest, I'd say this is one of the worst protagonists in any of these stories, because it's hard to even root for him, which is what you're supposed to do with a protagonist. You know, you're supposed to find reasons to want him to keep going. I didn't have a single one. And the female character kind of sucks. I mean, even if, man, if this guy was that sad about getting no attention, and there's too much attention getting to the baby, which he's just being a whiny bitch, right? Like, I mean, dude, you could have waited like a year, right? A more developed baby coming into a toddler, and it would have been totally fine. It just feels dumb. It doesn't make sense, and it's straight up dumb. Worst episode of the entire show, in my opinion.
Tales from the Dark Side. Like, it has that same worst concepts from Tales from the Dark Side type of plot line, where it's like, if you pitch this idea to anybody, and this is what some of the worst episodes in Tales from the Dark Side are like, where if you pitch this idea to anybody, they'll be like, no. And for some reason, these concepts always make the final cut. The main character in Kidnapper is the biggest fucking cuck and the biggest fucking simp I've ever seen in my goddamn life. First of all, this homeless woman pulls up, and this pregnant homeless woman appears in front of his like pawn shop where he like trades antiques for money, and he's down bad immediately. He's just like, oh yeah, this homeless pregnant woman, I'll let her stay with me. And she openly tells him that, yo, whatever happened in my previous relationship, like, you're not getting any action. Like, I'm not gonna do anything with you. Like, if you let me stay here, it's just gonna be friendship. And then dude literally accepts that under that condition, and then thinks that he's gonna get some action, right? And literally, he thinks that having the baby stolen is gonna get him some punani. And what do you know, buddy? Yeah, a woman dealing with her baby that she birthed getting stolen and being grief stricken. Yeah, she doesn't want to sleep with you, man. And he like even tries like forcing himself on her at one point, and she shuts him off. Really weird. And he had somewhat of a likable personality in the very beginning. I'm like, oh, he's a sweet guy. You know, he's got some nice monologue. And then he just straight up deteriorates. And then they got this stupid ass baby stealing scheme. Apparently, so many babies are getting stolen in the UK that a 5'2" businessman in a huge Kai Cenat streaming chair is just sitting there like Spider-Man, literally contemplating about how he's gonna trade babies. And he's got fucking ogre Igor, who's kidnapping all these babies. They got like mimes that they set up at the park to steal babies. Like, it's a bunch of weird ass shit.
The most random plot point of any Tales from the Crypt episode ever. And I'm not saying that as a joke. Like, you see it happen in the background, and you're like, what? Is that like a gag? Like, is that just kind of like put there? No, stuff happens with it for like a minute, and it's just for the purpose of being a really lazy excuse to get the baby stolen. I mean,
the woman happy. Yeah, no, buddy. Her own baby got stolen. That's why she's upset. You think taking some stranger's baby is gonna help you? And then they obviously treat him like a pedophile or some creep. So they right away start beating him up. And then he fucking, like Bruce said, he realized that, oh, this is my baby. This is the baby that I sold off. It just so happens that this woman, who I just so happened to coincidentally under this parallel universe happen to steal a baby from. Oh shit, it's my baby. And he starts yelling out, hey, it's my baby. Bro, yo, bro. Just put the fries in the bag and shut the fuck up. Like, just end this goddamn episode. Holy shit, is the worst thing in anthology history.
I'd say there's an argument that this is worse than some of the stuff in Creepshow 3. I mean, just barely, but...
Where she turns into a succubus, eats off his dick, and what's left on his crotch is a bunch of tentacles. What the fuck, Batman? Alright. Cold War. Racist as hell episode. So many goddamn racist jokes. There's literally a beginning scene with the most Chinese ass robbers you could ever see. And they're shooting their blicks. And as they're shooting the gun, they're going, what all? Hey all? We all? Like, bro, come on, man. And then the dude, like, looks at a black guy and he's like, I didn't know you're getting with one of them brothers. I was like, okay, buddy, relax. And then turns out it's like zombies versus vampires is weird as fuck. Smoke Rings, I have to give a shout out only for one reason, because Daniel Craig is in this episode. And for those of you who don't know who Daniel Craig is, he's fucking James Bond. You should know who that is, the new James Bond. You know, pretty good guy. He's in the episode, but he barely does anything, so it's barely of relevance. Honestly, can't even remember much about the episode. I think it's like they're selling some advertising tool and it ends up being hypnosis and whatever. And what does it end up? It was all a dream. It was all a setup. And the guy got set up at the end. About face. Oh my God. Yo, nah. We need to talk about this. I'm not Christian, okay? I'm not Catholic. But I got Christian and Catholic friends. This is the most blasphemous episode I've seen in Crypt. If you guys thought As You Sow was getting on a little bit of a blasphemous border, holy cow. Yo, sorry to all the Christians and Catholics out there. This is a blasphemous ass episode where a preacher is just railing every young woman he can see, and he ends up getting these Siamese twins, like daughters. And he just sleeps with anything that moves, and he like misconstrues the Bible verses as like justification. And then his Siamese twin daughter then comes and kills him. I don't fucking know. And confession, I'll be dead ass with y'all. I fell asleep 5 times in the 20-minute span of watching this episode. I can't even fucking tell you what it's about. The most I recollect of this episode is the fucking blurb that's in front of me from the wiki. A screenwriter specializing in tales of horror becomes a suspect in the grisly deaths of 3 women. Well, gee willikers, buddy, I didn't fucking remember any of that. I just remember that it was a giant fucking yap fest, and the ending was, gotcha. That's all I remember. Alright, that's a shout out to every shit-ass episode. Now on to, you know what, you lead this one. You want to talk about that last episode.
Hell yeah, I do. The third pig. So... Now, I haven't looked into this episode much, but from what I can tell, this was an episode, and this is just based on my own theories and thoughts, that was made because this show basically knew we gotta end this now, and we need one more episode to fulfill the contract. They decided to basically make an animated TV special, if you will, because it doesn't feel like any other Tales from the Crypt episode. And it's immediately the Crypt Keeper saying, well, I don't have anything to work with, so let's tell a fucking random story that's like ancient. The 3 Little Pigs, okay? We all know how that story goes. It's so basic and so dumb that we heard this in like pre-K, right? If you even went to preschool. And this is just so fucking bad. Like, even as an animated short, like, this just doesn't do anything. I think the coolest thing is a couple of the shots of, like, the big creepy house, kind of cool, Scooby-Dooey, you know? Maybe there's an argument to be made that the Franken pig is kind of cool. That's about it. I mean, like, the voice acting, the story. I mean, the story is just the three little pigs, but with one that smokes a lot and one that drinks a lot. And the one that drinks a lot barfs everywhere every 10 seconds. And the one that smokes a lot is coughing and fucking hacking out his lungs every 10 seconds. Does that sound enjoyable? No. I mean, sure, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, I wouldn't want to watch this again, but if I had to, I wouldn't be, like, groaning about it. But, like, God, this is just such a lame way to go out. Like, you could have picked any other... Because here's the thing. Look at the airing dates on IMDb, because I've looked at it. This could have been aired second last, third last, doesn't matter. As long as something else was aired last, this wouldn't be as memorable. But this is so memorable just for the sole purpose of being last. That's why nobody in a presentation group wants to be the last, because what if you fuck up? Everyone's gonna remember you. You know? The first and the last are always the two most scary things. The first episode of Tales from the Crypt in Season 1 was fucking great. I don't think anybody could say that's below a 5. I mean, you'd be fucking crazy. And then you have the last, which, yeah, we know this isn't a good season, but this is scary.
Experienced everything I've had to with the show. How are you going to wrap this up? Because before the third pig, there's been 92 episodes. Okay, let me repeat that. 92 episodes, 7 seasons, which means this has been going on for several years, and literally a location switch and production issues and all these things. So how are you going to wrap that up? And when our other reviewer friends that have watched this show before, shout out to, you know, Goosebumps Completionist, for FFA, and Monster Blood, they had told me that the last episode was animated, and I literally sat there like, no, they didn't tell me. Actually, here's the story. They didn't tell me the last episode was animated. They said, this is what they said in season 7. They said that, oh yeah, that's like the last live action episode that's good. And I remember I read that message in the Discord we were talking, and I said, what the fuck do you guys mean the last live action episode? Because the entire show is live action. And they're like, well, the last episode is animated. And I sat there dumbfounded for 30 seconds, and I said, what the fuck do you mean the last episode is animated? Because I have PTSD from animated anthology. Because in the modern age, I've seen the Creep Show TV show, and all its animated segments are fucking dog shit. They always end up being dog shit, even if they adapt good stories. And the third pig is literally like if you went to your mom back in the day and said, Mom, can we buy like a Ren and Stimpy DVD? Can we get a Ren and Stimpy VHS? She'll be like, nah, we got Ren and Stimpy at home. That's the third pig. It is just random, what the fuck, cartoon violence, random shit. Like Bruce brought up, it's a bunch of meme characters. The pig is called Drunky, and he's like, you know. And then you got Smokey, who's like, all right. And then you got the third pig, who's like, well, actually, guys, like, you know, that type of thing. And then the big bad wolf is like, hey guys, it's the big bad wolf here. I can't figure out what to rhyme with. Like, the big bad wolf is not threatening. A few of the jokes, for how ridiculous they are, some of them made me laugh. Like when the big bad wolf is in the bar and he's looking at the Bo Peep magazine and he sucks off her clothes, and then when he walks away, the Crypt Keeper is like, so the big bad wolf was on his way to go molest Bo Peep. And I was like, okay, that caught me off guard. Like, that made me laugh just for how ridiculous it fucking sounded. But everything else, it's literally the fairy tale, except done in a goofy Ren and Stimpy way. The animation is choppy. It is not good animation. If you've seen old cartoons, they have smooth animation because they're cartoons. Of course, this is an animated segment from a live action show with no budget. So it's like choppy, almost still frame animation at times. And the voice acting sucks. Sorry, hate to say it, but cartoons usually got good voice actors. Every voice actor in this thing sucks. It almost sounds like they went on the street and just picked out random people in the U.S. from like the South or anywhere. They went to fucking Detroit. Detroit out of all places, they're like, give me somebody who can voice act. And they said, come over here. You know, it's not good voice acting. So this episode is, and the fact it's the finale. I mean, you have a fucking live action show adapting EC comic stories, schlocky, shock value, you know, sleazy, crazy plots, all types of crazy stuff, and you give us this. You give us this as the finale. Like, you couldn't have just given us any American thing that you didn't debut. Like, if you had the time to make an animated episode and get to these voice actors and stuff, you could have just shot a quickly done last minute story. You could have just picked out some story, some EC comic story you could have done quick and just dropped it. Why make this? At this point, they just didn't give a fuck. And by the way, all the actors are American, so this was the American, basically, team who made this episode. At least from what my theory is. Nothing confirmed, but yeah, I think the American team from the actors made it.
It's honestly disgraceful as a wrap up. Especially when you like take into consideration what some shows have tried to do as wrap-ups, and I'm gonna even say anthology, right? I think it's not the best episode ever, but in Are You Afraid of the Dark? That has one of the best episode wrap-ups, just the way it concludes everything. Maybe even the best in anthology horror, right? Goosebumps doesn't wrap anything up because they didn't really get the chance, but at least they kept it, you know, just basing it off of normal shit they do. This is just weird. I don't know if my theory's right about the contract thing. I bet that's what it was, because there's no way they would have made this. We'll look it up and we'll put it on the screen right now. Whatever this is, right? So, what I have to say, though, is I would have never done this. I would have dropped it. Or I would have done something with the Crypt Keeper, just a fun little recollection thing of some sort, just to entertain the audience for 20 minutes. Just anything else, right? I mean, if they could have done live action, do it. I don't know if they had the budget for it. Just do something cheap, though.
Funny enough, I've spoken to some other reviewers who don't like binge. They just watch Tales from the Crypt like back in the day. Like for one of them, Night of the Living Dude, Michael Goosebumps fan, you know, he was a big show watcher. He said that he's only seen 6 seasons, the Americans. He never got to watch the 7th season. And I think there's a lot of people out there who've not seen the 7th season of Crypt because, again, it was the UK, a completely different direction. So really, this thing is almost like the last seasons of Are You Afraid of the Dark, like the last 2 seasons, where most people have just not seen them. So those who have seen them can speak on it, and those who've not seen them, you know, don't even know it exists, pretty much.
And not saying it even aired very much in the US. I bet it was kind of rare, you know.
I think a lot of the US viewers would have thought season 6 is the end, unless you were really tuned in and you maybe paid attention to some advertisements out there that were saying that they're transitioning to the UK or whatever. Maybe you looked at some forums on early internet. But yeah, no, that's a good point. Most people in the US probably thought season 6 was the end. I just treat the movies as that finale. Like, once you graduate from the show, you just watch Demon Knight, which is very good, Bordello of Blood, which is fun enough, okay, and Ritual I have not seen, but those are more representative of Crypt as a finale than whatever this was. Horror, well, it is anthology, was the sitcom Seinfeld. You know, that show could have kept going, but Seinfeld was like, no, like, I want it to end here because I'm not going to have any more ideas after this last episode of the season, so they just ended it there, and that's what made it pretty still famous, obviously still famous till this day. Tales from the Crypt was one of the most, it is one of the most, if not the most iconic and popular adult, at least adult horror anthology show ever. Anthology shows, period. Like we mentioned before, I think in our season 1 discussion, there is so much merch, there's so much just advertisement and material and copying of this been done in like modern media. Everybody knows about the show and recognizes it. So, you know, the fact that it ended like this is sad to see. And I think most people just block it out of their memory for that. They just kind of want to remember the good things about Crypt. But overall, I think Crypt is like, it had a really strong beginning, but it used up all its best cards in the beginning. When you use up all your best stuff in the beginning, you're going to have nothing in terms of longevity later. So That's what happened to him.
I guess it's a good way to end the episode. Overall, season 6 and 7, very weak. Not a fan. I'm probably never going to revisit any of these episodes unless I'm hate watching them, which I really don't like to do, so it's never going to happen.
You couldn't pay me to rewatch The Kidnapper and Fatal
No,
Kingdom.
I wouldn't. I mean, absolutely not. That it's bad all across the board.
More fun in the beginning, and then my spark just died out towards the end. But I am happy that it is finished. I do like the fact that it's such an iconic TV show. I do think it's a little overrated in terms of the overall appearance, but at the same time, I had fun. So you know what? These last 2 seasons aside, I thought it was a decent show. Pretty good show, if not a good show. And these last 2 are just that redheaded stepchild. We just gotta let him be.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to go sub to the Horrorlander himself. If I'm even pointing to the right side of the screen, YouTube does weird shit. Also, follow Goose Junkies, the podcast, on Goosebump's Completionist channel, which he also features on, and anything else that he is a part of. Editing Bruce here, just to quickly say that the last 20 seconds of the footage got randomly corrupted, as if enough of this footage wasn't already kind of fucked up. So, I just wanted to say really fast, thanks so much for watching. If there's anything you can do to support the channel or BD's channel, please do so. And I'll see you in the next video. Happy Friday.